Hi friends, in this video we are going to see a new story titled The Warnings, published in the Chandamama magazine, which is a story of Betal and Vikram. So let's move towards the story. Vikram once again went back to the tree, took the corpse down, threw it across his shoulder and began to walk towards the burial ground. When the Betal of the corpse said, "O king, have you realized that, in spite of all your efforts, that which is to happen will happen, and that you cannot change it a bit? There was once a youth named Kunala who failed to realize this and lost his own life. Let me tell you about him." Then he narrated the following tale. Kunala was a young man with an uncommonly kind heart. He was a jolly fellow too. He decided to go to the capital to find out work there. His path lay west across a forest and a meadow and over the hills. He left his village early in the morning and walked on, with a sign behind him, till he reached the forest at about noon. Inside the forest, it would be cool and walking in it would be a pleasure. It would not be very hot by the time he came out of the forest. As Kunala was about to enter the forest, he heard a deep voice say, "Kunala, don't enter the forest lest you commit murder." He could not judge where the voice came from, nor from how far. Thinking that someone was playing a prank upon him, he searched for the person who spoke, but he found none. He ignored the warning, for he was in a light-hearted mood. He proceeded forward carefully under the shade of the trees. He was such a nice fellow that he hated the very idea of having to kill someone. But after all, he met no one in the forest and he reached the other end without the slightest mishap. Kunala laughed within himself for having taken the voice seriously. The sun was still quite hot, so he laid down under the trees a while and took a nap. The rays of the slanting sun woke him up. He had still got to cross the meadow and to climb up and down the hills to reach the city. So he left the forest and set foot in the meadow, when he heard the same voice speak. "Kunala, do not cross the meadow, lest you bring misery to the country." "Who are you?" Kunala shouted back in anger. "Why do you try to frighten me? I do not believe you. You said that I'll commit murder. I have murdered no one." "But you did," the voice replied. "A slug got crushed under your foot while you were walking through the forest." "How could I help it?" Kunala said. "Anyone could have done a thing like that." "It is a lie that I shall bring misery to the country by crossing the meadow." The voice was silent. Kunala proceeded forward. The sun had already set when he reached the hills, but he knew the sun still shone on the other side of the hill. He began to climb the hill when the voice spoke again. "Kunala, do not climb the hill, lest you die." Kunala was furious. "Why do you frighten me?" he shouted. "Do you take me a coward? You said that I would bring misery to the country by crossing the meadow. I crossed it. What misery did I bring to the country?" "But you did," the voice replied. "While crossing the meadow, you came across a swarm of butterflies, of which one was greatly frightened because of you. It will fly as far as the capital. It will then lay its eggs on one of the trees there. A certain caterpillar that comes out of one of those eggs will crawl onto the pregnant queen's neck. She will have an abortion because of the fright. The king will have no more children. His worthless brother will become king after him and rule the country so inefficiently that enemies will take possession of it. And you will be the cause of all this tragedy. Every action will have a reaction," Kunala said. "I'll not be made responsible for something that is going to take place at some future date." He began to climb the hill and reached the top in time to see some twilight on the other side. He laughed triumphantly and challenged the voice, saying, "You see, I've climbed the hill, and I'm still alive." "Why should I lie to you?" the voice replied. "Those who climb the hills should come down again. I'll tell you, you are already dead to the world, for you are going to see no one and no one is going to see you before you die." Kunala was frightened. The twilight was fading fast. He thought it was risky going down the hill in the dark and thought of the remaining on the top of the hill for whole night. But on second thoughts, fear looked like a useless thing. If the voice belonged to a supernatural creature and if it was speaking with foreknowledge, he was doomed to die. If on the contrary, the voice did not know what it was saying, he could carry or very easily ignore it. Kunala began to climb down the hill. After a while, his foot slipped on the rocks and he had a great fall, on account of which he died. Some time later, the queen of the country, who was with a child, fell into a swoon. One day, when a caterpillar crawled onto her neck, she lost the child, had no more children all her life, and the throne passed on to the king's brother. This worthless ruler brought about anarchy in the kingdom, as a result of which the country went into alien hands. Having finished the tale, Betal said, "O king, I have a doubt. Was Kunala wrong in not listening to the warnings? Had he not incurred the sins of committing murder, bringing ruin upon the land, and lastly the sin of suicide? If you know the answer and yet do not speak, your head shall split. Kunala did no wrong, nor did he sin." Vikram replied, "The supernatural voice knew the future, but it had not the capacity to alter it, for it would have informed him at the outset what exactly would have happened. For instance, if Kunala was informed that a slug would die under his foot, if he would have walked into the forest, he would certainly have turned back, and the act would have been avoided. But the voice did not have the capacity to prevent Kunala from walking into the forest, crossing the meadow, or climbing the hill. If a supernatural agency with knowledge of the future could not alter things, how could an ordinary mortal like Kunala help killing the slug, bringing ruin upon his country, or dying from a fall? So Kunala must be considered as absolutely innocent." The king's silence was thus broken, and Betal disappeared with the corpse and went back to the tree. So this was the story published in the Chandamama magazine for all my dear friends. Till I come back with a new episode and a new video, stay safe and take care. In case if you have not liked, shared or subscribed to our channel, do like, share and subscribe our channel for more updates. Thank you.